Welcome back, and thank you for tuning into Midnight Affairs Tales. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know what part of the world you are watching from right now. Let us know in the comments. Now let's dive into today's story, Chapter 1. You ever catch someone lying to your face and smile like it didn't tear you apart inside? I was sitting in a government-issued SUV, wire in my ear, eyes locked on a hotel room across the street. Operation Hydra was in motion, a sting we'd been planning for weeks. But my thoughts weren't on the arms dealer inside that room. They were on the second phone I'd found under Rachel's seat cushion that morning. She'd left early, told me she had a teacher's conference at the school. But I knew the signs: shaky eye contact, rehearsed casual tone, a subtle pause when I kissed her goodbye. That's the kind of thing you notice when you've interrogated cartel bosses and domestic terrorists for 15 years. The screen lit up when I tapped it. The wallpaper wasn't of us, or even Tyler. It was of someone else entirely: Jason, my ex-partner, my former best friend, a man I hadn't spoken to since the Ambrose operation went sideways and nearly got me killed. Now I was watching the crosshairs on a foreign criminal while inside. My real war was boiling at home. Callahan, suspects on the move, came the voice in my ear. I didn't respond right away. My pulse was hammering, not from the target walking toward the room, but from the text I just opened on Rachel's burner. Can't wait to feel your hands on me again. Same room. Same room. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just cheating. This was betrayal with layers I hadn't even begun to count. I had a choice: blow the operation, or blow my life apart later. I chose silence. But inside, I asked myself, how do you hunt a traitor when the traitor wears your last name? Hi, if you're still watching, that means you're enjoying the story, and I really appreciate that. I just have one small favor to ask. I'm on a mission to hit my first 1,000 subscribers. If you like stories like this, please hit that like button and subscribe to be part of the journey. Your support means a lot, and trust me, even better stories are coming soon. Now, let's jump back into the story. Rachel's lies were clean. Too clean. A schoolteacher with a flawless routine, sweet-smelling candles, and receipts for every step. But I knew that kind of detail wasn't innocence, it was camouflage. I started where any good agent does: the patterns. Every Tuesday night, PDA meetings. Every Thursday, book club. And the worst one, Saturdays. Errands. Gone for hours. No real answers when she came back. I'd ask what she got, and she'd rattle off a few things. Always groceries. Always vague. I checked her browser history. Clean. Her phone? Locked tighter than our FBI cyber vault. But everyone makes mistakes. It was 2:14 a.m. when she fell asleep watching TV. Her phone was under the couch cushion. I cracked the code on the third try, our anniversary date. Figures. The first thing I saw wasn't even a message. It was a calendar event. Rendezvous, room 307. Repeats, weekly. I opened her texts. One thread was labeled work stuff. But inside, Jason, he suspects anything? Rachel, no. Mark doesn't look at me the same way anymore. He's distracted. I'm invisible. Jason, good. Let's keep it that way. My hands shook. I had been trained to catch lies, red faces, track fugitives through jungle terrain, but I hadn't seen my own home rotting from the inside. She kissed me goodnight that night. Like nothing was broken. I kissed her back. But I wasn't her husband anymore. Not really. I was a ghost in my own home, and a hunter with a target painted in my own bed. I powered off her phone, slid it back, sat in the dark. What else have I missed? And what will I do when I know everything? The slip-up came 3 days later, small, stupid, and fatal. Rachel was in a rush that morning. Purse on her arm, coffee in hand, keys in her mouth, heading out the door late for school. I watched her go through the mirror by the hallway. She was humming. I waited for the click of the door, then turned. There it was. The second phone, left on the edge of the kitchen counter like it belonged there. I stared at it. It was black, sleek, barely used. I'd seen it once, the burner she kept in her glove box. I'd taken pictures, made notes, but never touched it. This time, I picked it up. No passcode. Like she trusted me not to snoop. Or maybe she thought I'd never dare. What I found made my skin crawl. Photos. Messages. Bank transfers. Jason's face. Her body. The two of them in a hotel bathroom, grinning. A video. I tapped play. Say hi to your loving husband. Jason laughed on screen. Rachel giggled, wrapped in a towel. Don't worry, baby. He's too busy saving the country to notice anything. I paused the video. My own living room reflected in the screen. Suddenly, it wasn't just a betrayal. It was a humiliation. She used my loyalty like a cover. My job, my identity, was their hiding place. I pocketed the phone. Didn't speak a word when she got home. Just smiled and asked if she wanted Thai for dinner. Let her play normal. Let her think she was safe. Because now, I wasn't investigating a crime. I was preparing a sentence. One she'd never see coming. The phone burned in my pocket the whole day. At 6:42 p.m., Rachel texted, grabbing groceries. Be home soon. 10 minutes later, I was parked outside the Parkdale Inn, engine off, binoculars in hand. Room 307. I had to see it with my own eyes, not a photo, not a message. The truth had to slap me across the face. At 7:03, Jason pulled up. Black Audi. He still drove like he had something to prove. He grabbed a bag from the trunk, wine, from the looks of it, and walked inside. At 7:07, Rachel arrived. She didn't knock. She had a key. They kissed in the hallway like newlyweds. She laughed. He grabbed her waist like it was routine, like she belonged there. I watched them close the door, and my vision tunneled. I could barely feel my fingers on the steering wheel. Rage wasn't even the right word. It was betrayal soaked in gasoline. But I didn't move. I didn't storm in. Because I was no longer the betrayed husband. I was a tactician now. In that room, that was a crime scene in the making. I took pictures, license plates, timestamps. I noted her exact movements. The red heels. The blouse she told me she wore for parent-teacher night. I called Tyler. Dad, you busy? No. Homework. You still have that drone I got you for your birthday? Yeah. Good. Charge it. I need your help with something tomorrow. He paused. What kind of help? I stared at the room. The shadows moving behind the blinds. The kind where we don't tell your mom. Jason Weston was once my closest ally in the field. We kicked down doors, cracked high-level intel together. I trusted him with my life. That trust nearly got me killed in Caracas. We were chasing a cartel accountant. Jason was supposed to cover the back exit. I moved in solo, thinking I had backup. The guy had a blade and 3 inches on me. I made it out with 34 stitches and a permanent scar down my side. Jason never showed. His excuse? I got caught in traffic. I never believed him. But I buried it for the team, for the bureau. Now he was buried in my wife. It hit different. That morning, I pulled up his records on my work terminal. Nothing out of place, at least not on paper. But I found something strange. Over the past year, Jason had been rerouted off assignments. Repeatedly. Nothing major, just shuffled around. It was subtle, like someone was clearing a path. Or protecting him. Rachel. I dug into the logistics department where she handled contractor paperwork for the FBI's education outreach. She'd been approving vendors. Budget reallocations. Nothing massive, but when I traced the paper trail. Shell accounts. Sloppy ones. Tied to Jason. She wasn't just cheating. She was helping him move money. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling tiles of the office I once prided myself in. It felt foreign now. Every inch of my life was under their fingerprints. My home. My son. My badge. But now I had something else. A reason. This wasn't just revenge anymore. It was justice. And I would use every tool the FBI gave me to bury the traitors who wore my face in public and laughed behind my back. Tyler had always been observant, too much so for his own good. He never said much. Never asked questions he didn't already know the answers to. He just watched, quiet as a shadow. That night, we sat on the porch. A rare moment of peace. You're not sleeping, he said without looking at me. No, is it Mom? I didn't answer. He looked at me then. A sharp, but soft. I've seen the texts. I know. I froze. How? She left her iPad connected to her messages. I wasn't snooping. It just popped up. And you didn't tell me? I figured. You already knew. Or didn't want to. He was 14. But in that moment, he felt older than me. She's lying to both of us, he added, softer. I nodded. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a flash drive. I saved everything, just in case. I stared at it. You serious? He shrugged. I didn't know what you'd do with it, but if you were gonna do something, I thought maybe you shouldn't do it alone. I took the flash drive like it was made of glass. It held screenshots, videos, timestamps, even a screen recording of a FaceTime call between Rachel and Jason. She was in our bed. The silence between us stretched. Finally, I said, this changes things. Tyler's voice didn't tremble. Good, because I don't want her getting away with it. I looked at my son, really looked at him. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about legacy. What kind of man would I be? What kind of father? If I let her turn our home into a lie. Now I had a partner. And together, we were going to build a case the world would never forget. The house was silent. Rachel had taken the car and disappeared into her usual Thursday night void. Book club, she said, like always. It was 7:48 p.m. I knew better now. I sat alone in my office with Tyler's flash drive plugged into my laptop. Folders, files, dates, and then one audio file labeled voice memo _307.m4. I clicked it. The recording was rough, low quality, background noise, but the voices were unmistakable. Rachel, he still doesn't know. I swear, he's so busy playing hero, he wouldn't notice if I walked out mid-dinner. Jason, you should have left him by now. Thought we were done playing house. Rachel laughs. I'm working on it. Just need a few more things in place. Jason, you mean his clearance? Silence. Rachel, don't be stupid. Jason, you're the one with access to all that internal crap. Budget flows, personnel. He's a gatekeeper. I'm just saying, if we ever needed to. Rachel, I said, don't be stupid. Then the recording cut off. My throat dried. It wasn't just infidelity. This was deeper, riskier, dangerous. They weren't just toying with me. They were toying with the Bureau, with national security. I stared at the monitor, the cursor blinking like a countdown clock. The woman I came home to every night, the mother of my son, was talking like a spy in my living room. And Jason, the coward who left me bleeding in South America, was now trying to bleed my life from the inside. I closed the file, copied it to my encrypted vault, and deleted the original. She didn't know I knew, and that was my advantage. From this moment on, everything she said, every step she took, was evidence. And I was no longer just Mark Callahan, FBI. I was her shadow. The next morning, Rachel made waffles. Like nothing had happened. Like we weren't standing on the edge of a cliff she carved with her own hands. She wore one of my old FBI shirts, the faded one with the shoulder patch, and hummed while she worked the batter. Tyler sat at the table, earbuds in, pretending not to notice. But his eyes flicked to me every few seconds. I poured coffee, sat down, let her put the plate in front of me. She smiled. You've barely slept. Everything okay at work? I met her gaze and gave her the same smile I'd use on a criminal mid-interrogation. Just another long night. You know how it is. She kissed my cheek. You're always pushing too hard. Funny, I thought. So are you. I watched her walk out, grab her tote, and leave with that calm, perfect teacher energy. I waited until I heard the garage door close before I spoke. She's way too calm, Tyler said, sliding off his headphones. She doesn't suspect a thing. Feels weird pretending, he said. I looked at my son, this kid who used to build Lego sets in the living room. And now he was decoding text metadata for a revenge mission. You sure about this, Tyler? He didn't hesitate. She chose him. She hurt you. She lied to me. We're not a family to her. We're just backup. The words stung, mostly because they were true. I stood up, finished my coffee, and looked at the calendar. It was Friday. That meant Rachel would be grading papers late tonight. Good. I needed time. Because tonight, I'd be setting up the dead drop trap. And after that, I'd start tracking Jason's financials with the precision of a surgical blade. The mask was staying on for now. But inside, I was building fire. The server room at the FBI wasn't made for vengeance, but I'd found ways to make it work. My badge gave me access to monitoring tools most people never touched. Deep layers, back-end crawlers, traffic sniffers. I logged into the forensic analysis server under a sub-admin alias I'd created 3 years ago. It was clean, untraceable, ghost level. In less than 20 minutes, I had Jason's entire government activity footprint mapped. 3 anomalies popped up right away. A ghost vendor ID tied to an internal consulting contract. A recurring offshore ping to a known laundering hotspot in the Caymans. And the worst, encrypted transfers routed through an alias email, traced back to a shell account in Rachel's name. They were laundering money. And she wasn't just a participant. She was the paper trail cleaner. Son of a bitch, I whispered. They were using FBI systems, my systems, to cover their operations. Probably thought no one would ever look. I printed the logs, signed nothing, stored the physical copies in a safe deposit box under Tyler's name, just in case things went nuclear. That night, I set the dead drop. A small manila envelope, left in a parking garage Jason used after hours. Inside, a fabricated leak notice appearing to come from an anonymous whistleblower. It was bait. If Jason took it, opened it, followed the rabbit trail I laid out inside, I'd know he was watching his back. Because guilty men always are. Back home, I watched Rachel sleep. Peaceful. Dreaming. And I whispered under my breath, "Sleep well, Rachel." Because soon, the walls would start closing in. And neither of them would know the spider was already in the web. Saturday morning. Pancakes. Sunlight. A fresh slice served with maple syrup. Rachel leaned on the counter, scrolling her phone while Tyler and I sat at the table. "I've got to run to the store," she said casually, not looking up. "We're low on paper towels and that almond creamer you like." "No rush," I said, sipping coffee. She kissed my cheek and left, same routine, same scent. Everything calculated. The moment the door closed, Tyler opened his laptop. "You tracking her phone?" I nodded. "Already pinged her location twice this week. Same spot. Hotel again." "Yeah, but today's different." "How?" "I'm going to call her bluff." I waited 30 minutes, then called her. She picked up fast. "Hey babe, what's up?" "Need you to grab milk too," I said. Tyler used the last of it. "Already in the checkout line," she said. "Be home in 10. I didn't say a word, because I was staring at her phone location on my screen. 3.6 miles away. Parkdale Inn. Room 307. She hung up without a flinch. No guilt in her voice. Not even hesitation. I turned to Tyler. "That's our first recorded lie. Live." He swallowed hard. That felt weird. It should. I copied the call log, saved the coordinates, and added a note. Lie 001, shopping cover story. "Dad, what are we doing with all this?" I paused. "We're building a case. Like we would with any criminal." He nodded, slowly, the weight settling in his chest. He wasn't just helping me spy anymore. He was helping me prepare for war. And soon, Rachel would have no idea how deep the hole she dug really was. The line between the badge and the man had never felt so thin. I stood in the FBI evidence locker, watching surveillance footage from a cartel case. My face stared back from the screen, calm, in control, professional. But I didn't recognize the man anymore. Because at home, I was surveilling my own wife. I wasn't just collecting data. I was profiling her. Not as a woman I loved, but as a person of interest. That night, I reviewed the collected files. I'd cataloged everything. 17 false alibis, 6 unreported meetings with Jason, 3 flagged financial transfers, 1 compromised internal login tied to her bureau access. Tyler sat nearby, silent. He hadn't said much since the phone call lie. I couldn't blame him. There's no clean way to watch your own mother become a suspect. "You okay?" I asked. He didn't look up. "When you arrest people, do they ever say sorry?" I thought about that. Sometimes. But usually they only say it when they're caught. He nodded. I went back to my files. Her browser history showed deep searches on legal separation, asset protection, and, worst of all, FBI pension after divorce. She was planning her exit. She wanted to gut me on the way out. "Dad," Tyler said, eyes locked on the monitor. "You can't let her win." "I'm not." "Then what happens next?" I leaned forward, opened a secure server, and began uploading data. We escalate. I sent the first anonymous tip, a subtle one, to the Bureau's internal security team. Nothing that pointed at Rachel directly. just enough to put Jason on their radar. Because if you want two snakes to turn on each other, you just need to light a little fire under the right one first. Sunday dinner used to mean something. Now, it felt like a performance. Rachel lit candles, poured wine, even made Tyler's favorite, garlic mashed potatoes. She smiled like a sitcom wife, not a woman having an affair with my ex-partner. "You've been quiet lately," she said between bites. "Everything good at work?" "Busy," I replied. "Running surveillance, mostly." She tilted her head. "Anyone interesting?" "Couple. Think they're clever. But we always catch the clever ones eventually." Her fork paused midair. Just a flicker of tension. Then she laughed. "Well, good luck with that." Tyler watched the exchange with a dead stare. He wasn't eating much. After dinner, Rachel excused herself for a bath. Said she needed to soak away the week. The moment she went upstairs, Tyler turned to me. "She's nervous." "She should be." I grabbed a thumb-sized bug, disguised as a phone charger, and slipped it behind a living room outlet. The mic range was 10 meters. Clean audio. "Do you think she's catching on?" Tyler asked. "No, not yet." He hesitated. "What happens if she does?" I didn't answer. Instead, I pulled out a second bug and handed it to him. "Her purse," I said quietly. "When she's asleep." He looked at it, swallowed hard, nodded. We weren't father and son anymore. We were agents. The next morning, Rachel left early, towel-dried hair, coffee in hand, smile painted on like everything was perfect. Tyler met me at the door. "It's in her purse," he whispered. "Good." We had audio, we had timestamps, we had lies logged like clockwork. And soon, we'd have her voice admitting everything. Because criminals always talk when they think no one's listening. And Rachel? She was about to confess without even realizing it. It was Monday night when the plan shifted from surveillance to entrapment. Rachel had a habit. She took long showers before bed, left her phone on the nightstand, volume off. That night, she came home later than usual, mumbled something about a staff meeting running over, and headed straight for the bathroom. The moment the water turned on, I moved. Her phone was there, screen up, charging. I tapped it awake. No password. She must have disabled the lock after I hadn't caught her all this time. Confidence had made her lazy. I set my phone beside hers and opened the voice memo app. Hit record. Then I placed it under a folded sweatshirt in our walk-in closet, a spot with perfect acoustics. I didn't have long. 5 minutes later, she returned. Hair wet, wearing a towel and a smirk. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Just replying to emails," I lied, holding up my phone like I'd been working. She slipped into bed. I joined her, heart pounding. She didn't know she was being recorded. The next morning, I played it back alone in my car. What I heard chilled me. Rachel, whispering on a phone call, "Yeah, I can move it. His files are on the upstairs drive. But I need more time. If I get caught, Jason, muffled, you won't. He doesn't suspect a thing. Just get me that budget report by Thursday. Rachel, he's been distant lately. Like. Sharper. You think he knows? Jason, doesn't matter. He won't act. He's FBI. Too many rules." She laughed. "Rachel, yeah, too many rules." I paused the recording, stared at the dashboard. The world outside moved in slow motion. She was accessing my classified files, passing them, and mocking me for being bound by a moral code. But here's what she didn't know. I wasn't following rules anymore. I was rewriting them. By Wednesday, the case file I was building against Rachel and Jason had grown beyond simple betrayal. I was documenting treason. That afternoon, I took a personal hour and drove to a secure storage unit I'd rented under a fake name, something I'd used once years ago while undercover. Inside, printouts, flash drives, screenshots. All labeled, all time-stamped. Tyler had his own copy, hidden in a fireproof lockbox I gave him, and told him never to open unless something happened to me. He didn't ask questions, just nodded. Back at home, I added the latest, Rachel's secret access logs. 3 times, she'd used my office computer. 2 of them matched nights she claimed to be at school events. Both times, sensitive budget files had been downloaded to an external device. I traced those files to a private Dropbox folder, linked to a dummy email created by Jason Weston. I took screenshots. added them to the folder labeled Joint Collusion, Rachel/Jason. The next move was riskier. I printed just 2 pages, redacted enough to be bait, but loaded with just enough detail to scare. Then, that night, I placed the envelope in Jason's gym locker. Inside was a single line typed across the top. Your passwords are garbage. Your lies even worse. The fall is coming. It wasn't about fear. It was about pressure. If Jason felt the walls closing in, he'd start getting sloppy. And Rachel? She'd be the one standing too close when his mask fell off. I wanted to watch them turn on each other. I wanted them paranoid. Because when liars feel the heat, they stop trusting their partner in crime. And that's when the cracks start to show. I didn't expect the confession to come that soon. But betrayal has a funny way of snowballing. That Thursday night, I was downstairs reviewing surveillance footage when I heard Rachel's voice upstairs. Loud. Frantic. I muted everything and listened. She was on the phone, pacing the bedroom. Rachel, I don't know, Jason. Someone's watching us. Mark's acting different. He's not stupid. Silence. I crept halfway up the stairs, far enough to hear without being seen. Rachel, he keeps asking where I'm going. He stares at me like he's reading my thoughts. What if he's already recorded something? Pause. Rachel, no, I didn't say anything yet. But we have to stop. You said this would be clean. She sounded desperate. Edges of her voice fraying. Rachel, and Tyler, he's cold. He barely looks at me anymore. I think he knows. I leaned against the wall, heart pounding. Every word was confirmation. But more than that, I heard fear. Rachel, you promised me. You said he wouldn't find out. That we'd be out before anything got traced. Jason's voice was faint but sharp. I couldn't hear all of it. Then she said something that hit like a hammer. Rachel, I should have just stayed with Mark. At least he wouldn't have destroyed me like this. She hung up. I walked back down the stairs. Slow. Controlled. Back to my desk. I opened my notes. Typed the words. Subject starting to crack. Psychological pressure effective. Suspects will fracture soon. This wasn't personal anymore. It hadn't been for a while. It was professional. Strategic. And soon, it would be final. Because now Rachel wasn't just cheating. She was starting to regret it. And regret is the first sign of a losing side. It was time to prepare for the worst. After hearing Rachel's phone call, I knew the pressure was working. But pressure creates panic. And panic makes people dangerous. I needed a backup plan, not just for revenge, but for survival. That night, while Rachel was asleep, I went into the garage, opened the false floor panel beneath the workbench, and pulled out an old military-grade hard case. Inside were encrypted drives, burner phones, and a flash drive labeled in red Sharpie, burn folder. It wasn't just about Rachel anymore. It was about Jason, the bureau, Tyler's safety. Everything was on the line. I spent hours compiling copies of everything. All surveillance audio, every message and chat log, evidence of classified access violations, screenshots of Rachel's data pulls. I encrypted the drive with a triple authentication lock, stored it in a waterproof case, and put it in Tyler's school locker the next morning. Only he and I knew the code. When I handed him the sealed envelope, I saw the tension in his eyes. What if she finds it? He asked. She won't, I said. And if she does, we won't be here. He didn't ask where here meant. He just nodded. Back at the office, I slid an unsigned folder across Linda Morales' desk. My most trusted colleague. Sharp. Clean. No ties to Jason or Rachel. If something happens to me, I said, open this. She blinked. Mark, what the hell are you into? I held her gaze. Just promise me. She nodded slowly. Okay. That night, I sat in the driveway, engine off, hands on the steering wheel, staring at the glow of our kitchen window. Rachel was in there, still pretending. But I wasn't pretending anymore. I was ready for war. And war requires backup. A few years back, I saved a senator's daughter from a kidnapping gone sideways in Virginia Beach. Tonight, I cashed in that favor. I arranged a bureau-hosted networking dinner, formal, catered, and tightly guest-listed. A few FBI faces, a few political ones. Nothing big. But I made sure 2 people got an invitation, Jason Weston and my wife. Why are we even invited to this thing? Rachel asked Friday afternoon, brushing her hair in the mirror. You hate these types of events. Yeah, I replied. But it's good PR. Everyone's expected to bring their spouses. She didn't ask anything else. Just kept applying her lipstick. At 7:42 p.m., we walked into the Federal Building ballroom like the perfect couple. Her in a dark emerald dress. Me in my tailored black suit. Jason was already there. Drinking scotch. Laughing too loud. I walked up like nothing was wrong. Jason, I said, clapping his shoulder. Glad you made it. He looked like he'd swallowed glass. Mark. You. Clean up well. I raised my glass. So do you. Rachel's smile was glued on like a mask. Her grip on my arm tightened. I felt the tremor. The dinner was staged perfectly. I'd already asked the event's AV guy to set up a looping background montage of FBI field missions. A safe, sanitized highlight reel. But at exactly 8:17 p.m., the visuals changed. 10 seconds. No sound. Just one slide. A screenshot of Jason's dummy bank account, tied to Rachel's work terminal. It flashed and disappeared in an instant. Just long enough for Jason to see it. Just long enough for Rachel to choke on her wine. Something wrong? I asked, my voice calm. Jason looked pale. What was that? Just one of our archived field assets, I replied. You know, we see everything eventually. And then I smiled. Because the seeds of doubt were now fully planted. They were going to implode, and I wouldn't have to lift a single finger. Saturday morning. Rachel stood at the vanity mirror, brushing her hair like always. But the movements were stiff, repetitive, mechanical. I leaned against the bathroom doorway, arms crossed. Rough night? She froze, just for a second, then kept brushing. I didn't sleep well. Too much wine. She met my eyes in the mirror. Something like that. I stepped forward, slow, casual. You and Jason seemed tense. She didn't blink. He's been off lately. You noticed that? I gave a dry chuckle. Yeah, everyone's got something to hide, right? That landed. I saw it in her shoulders. She looked away, then quickly changed the subject. We should plan a weekend trip. Maybe take Tyler somewhere. Clear our heads. Our heads? I asked. She paused. I just mean reconnect. I stepped closer, lowered my voice. Rachel, what exactly do you think we've been doing all this time? She flinched, mask slipping. I stared at her through the mirror. You know what the Bureau teaches us about microexpressions? She swallowed. Said nothing. I leaned in, voice cold. They say guilt hides in the eyes, but real fear? It shows in the jaw. Tightening. Clenching. Her jaw was locked. Tell me, I whispered, what are you afraid of? She turned slowly. But before she could answer, Tyler knocked on the door. Dad, I need help with my project. Coming, I said, backing away. I left Rachel standing in front of the mirror, brush still in hand, trembling. The image of her reflection stuck with me the rest of the day. She wasn't just cracking. She was splintering. And when a liar begins to doubt her partner and her plan, that's when the entire con collapses from the inside. Linda Morales wasn't the type to poke her nose into someone else's business. That's what made her warning hit harder. It was Monday afternoon. Quiet office. She tapped on my door, then stepped in without waiting. Got a minute? I looked up from my screen. For you? Always. She shut the door behind her. No small talk. No smile. You dropped something off for me last week. Said to only open it if something happened to you. I nodded slowly. She leaned forward. Mark, what the hell's going on? I didn't answer right away. She was sharp. I couldn't deflect. But I couldn't expose the full story either. I'm handling something off books. Personal. She raised an eyebrow. Dangerous. Yes. She crossed her arms. You don't get to wear that badge and go rogue. If this affects national security, it's not foreign. It's not terrorism. It's closer. How close? I met her eyes. My wife and my ex-partner. The words hung in the air like smoke. Linda exhaled. Jesus. I nodded. Yeah. Are you going to bring this to internal affairs? Not yet. I'm gathering more. I want it airtight. She hesitated, then stepped closer. Then let me help. I blinked. You serious? You do it for me, she said. I swallowed. You have no idea what you're stepping into. Her voice dropped. If they're accessing classified systems through your clearance, they've already crossed a line. And if you wait too long, That line will swallow you too. I looked down. My hand was clenched around my pin, knuckles white. She was right. You have 72 hours, she said, turning toward the door. Then I'm going to internal myself. I didn't stop her. I just whispered, good. Because in 72 hours, I'd be ready. That night, I placed the second envelope in Jason's car. No signature, just another quiet threat. This one was heavier, redacted screenshots, mock subpoenas, and a flash drive containing a decoy bank statement showing a trace alert on his Cayman accounts. It wasn't real, but it looked real enough to ignite panic. I watched from a distance as he found it. He scanned the contents, paced in the parking lot, then made 3 phone calls in 5 minutes. I had every word captured through directional mic. Jason, who's watching us? You said it was clear. Rachel, on speaker, I don't know. Maybe someone inside? He's too clean. Mark doesn't make mistakes like this. Jason, well, if this goes public, if the Bureau sees this, we're done. I'll lose my pension. You'll lose everything. Rachel, so what do we do? Jason, we cut and run. Drop it all. Now. Exactly what I wanted. Back home, I opened the locked drawer in my study and pulled out the divorce papers. Already signed by me. Waiting for one more signature. Tyler saw them on the desk. She gonna sign those? When the time's right. What if she doesn't? I looked him dead in the eye. Then I won't need her signature. He didn't flinch. What happens after? We start over. He looked down. Good. I folded the papers, sealed them in an envelope, and placed them in the safe. Jason and Rachel were cracking. The moment they tried to run, the second they acted on fear, I'd catch them with both hands. Because now, this wasn't about saving my marriage. It was about ending it on my terms. It was Wednesday morning when it happened. Rachel stood in the kitchen, coffee in one hand, phone in the other. She didn't meet my eyes when I walked in. I need to talk to you, she said, voice hollow. I nodded. Okay. She set the mug down. Her hands were shaking. I've been unhappy, Mark. For a long time. I stayed silent. I think it's time we separate. Maybe not permanently, but I need space. Still, I said nothing. Her voice cracked. You don't even seem surprised. I looked at her for a long moment. I'm not. She blinked. You're not. I shook my head. Rachel, I've known. For months. She swallowed. You what? I know about Jason. I know about the accounts. The burner phone. The Dropbox folder. Her mouth opened, closed. She looked like she'd been shot. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't, I said quietly. The silence was louder than any argument. I just wanted to be happy, she whispered. I never wanted to hurt anyone. I stepped forward. You didn't just hurt someone. You built your happiness on lies. On betrayal. On our son's back. She dropped her gaze. I'm sorry. No, you're not, I said. You're sorry I found out. She didn't answer. I reached into the drawer, pulled out the envelope, and laid the divorce papers on the table. I already signed. She stared at them like they were a loaded weapon. I want everything, she said suddenly. The house. My share of your pension. I want a clean break. I smiled. You'll get what's coming. She looked confused. But she wouldn't be for long. Because the moment she tried to claim what wasn't hers, every secret she ever hid would come into the light. It didn't take much to push Jason over the edge. One anonymous tip. A single document slipped into the right hands at Internal Affairs. The fallout was instant. By Thursday afternoon, Jason was pulled from active duty. The official reason was administrative review, but anyone in the building could smell the blood in the water. I watched him pack up his desk from down the hall. He didn't see me. He looked smaller than I remembered, not the cocky field agent who used to laugh too loud or show off at briefings. Just a man unraveling at the seams. I passed by Linda, who nodded once. She'd done her part. Quiet. Clean. Back home, Rachel wasn't talking. She walked like her feet were made of glass, every movement careful, uncertain. She was afraid of what I knew, of what I hadn't shown her yet. She'd called Jason 3 times. I knew because I intercepted the calls. Jason panicked. He's coming for us. You realize that, right? Rachel, he wouldn't go nuclear. He is Tyler. He's not that kind of man. Jason, he's exactly that kind of man. You just never saw it. She didn't reply. Because Jason was right. At work, I submitted my own concerned inquiry to Human Resources, a pattern of strange financial activity connected to Jason. It looked harmless, but it made sure the Bureau kept digging. And when they did, they'd find just enough to keep Jason locked down, questioning everything. Rachel was watching him fall. And what she didn't realize, she was next. Saturday morning. Rain tapped against the windows like a slow, steady countdown. Tyler sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, jaw clenched in focus. He wasn't a kid anymore. Not in this house. Not in this storm. I found something, he said, without looking up. I walked over, leaned in. It was an iCloud backup, hidden in an app folder Jason must have used once and forgot. Rachel had uploaded a photo, or rather, Tyler had captured it through synced metadata, a screen grab from a video call. Rachel, wrapped in our sheets. Jason, shirtless, laughing. But that wasn't the point. The point was what was behind Rachel, my locked file cabinet. Open. In the frame, you could see a hard drive on the desk. They were stealing data during your case review, Tyler whispered. And she didn't even close the cabinet. I stared at it, not with rage, but clarity. They're not just cheaters, I said. They're thieves. Tyler turned his screen. There's more. I checked timestamps. That call was made during your debrief last quarter. She knew you wouldn't be home. I exhaled slowly. You're sure it's clear? Metadata doesn't lie. Neither do pixels. I put a hand on his shoulder. Good work. He looked up. What do we do now? We go public. He swallowed. You ready? No, I said. But they are. Sunday night. I sent the files to a former journalist contact. The kind who owed me one from a cold case I helped him crack. No names. No direct claims. Just a drive of anonymous evidence showing an affair between two bureau-connected individuals, misuse of classified files, and suspicious financial transactions.